Okay, we are in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 26. We're coming to the end of chapter 22. Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, one of those who is surety for debts. Then we go to 27. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you? Okay, so we are in this section of where we have more complex proverbs that are here. We don't have one verse proverbs anymore, what we might call couplets. We don't have those anymore. We've gone to some that are 2 and even 3 long, verses long, I mean. And so, and it's just in this section that has really occurred here in chapter 22. Now, we look at the meaning of this. Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge. Now, we've already had similar proverbs about this, going back to Proverbs chapter 6, beginning in verse 1. Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, one of those who is surety for debts. And all of this goes down to the debt is for somebody else, that you are helping somebody else. And this is an uncertainty that is occurring, and then it comes down to verse 27. If you're actually being this surety for some kind of debt, and you have nothing with which to pay, there's going to be a major problem. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you? Meaning that you're going to lose everything. You could very well lose everything if you can't have nothing with which to pay, that you've made a foolish agreement, an agreement with no means to actually fulfill it, and you can actually guarantee nothing. And in Proverbs 11 and verse 15, there was the proverb concerning surety for a stranger, and don't do that. And while these are not strictly moral law, it is a matter of wisdom and sense that you do this. It's not a great wickedness that you have done this, but it'd be best if you didn't. Especially if you have no means by which to guarantee this, that you have risked everything on a foolish promise. And that is no good. Now, we come to verse 28. 28 is different. 28 is different. 28 is not a couplet either. It's a standalone, and it's a direct statement that is given, and it sounds like it's taken straight out of a place like Deuteronomy, is what it sounds like, and a place like Deuteronomy 19:14, as a matter of fact. But do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. All right, now that is, we find that in Deuteronomy 27:17. It's cursed is the one who moves his neighbor's landmark. If we go down to verse 10, here we're still in, chapter 23, verse 10. Do not remove the ancient landmark, nor enter the fields of the fatherless, for their Redeemer is mighty. He will plead their cause with you. So, what is this? Do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. What are these landmarks? What is the landmark? Property line. That's exactly right. It's the property line of now increasing your property by moving the landmark that's in between you and your neighbor. And you're now taking some of your neighbor's land, some of his property. And God's not going to hold you guiltless for doing such a thing. Here are these property lines, and these are an inheritance in Israel. It's an inheritance that goes from generation to generation to generation to generation. It's passed on down. And not only are you cheating the current owner, but you're cheating his children and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. And You are not to remove them. You're not to move them. These are to remain there, which your fathers have set. And we have also mention of this in the book of Job, Job 24 and verse 2. I'm not going to read it, but we do have that there. Now we come to, but with verse 28, it's like a standalone, direct statement. It's not a couplet. It's just a direct statement, and in simple words. Now, verse 29. Do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. Do you see a man who excels in his work? Have you ever heard of the term of world-class talent? That there are those who are talented and it is world-class, meaning no one is going to be better than this class. Nobody is. This is as good as human beings can be in this particular trait, or this particular talent, in this particular skill, whatever it is. No one can be you can be in that class, but you're not going to excel that class. They have taken it to the point that nobody else can go beyond. But here is this man who excels in his work. Okay, so in Exodus 35, verses 30 to 36, there are two men named by name by God who are going to be head over in as far as the craftsman, as far as the skills necessary, as overseeing everything concerning the tabernacle. Now Moses and Aaron, obviously, they are going to be overseeing it, but they're not craftsmen at all. They are not any of that. Moses has been a shepherd, and Aaron, of course, is going to be the high priest. But these two men are Bezalel, the son of Uri, and Aholiab, the son of Hisamach. And the Bezalel is skilled in gold work and in design, and also concerning everything in building beautiful objects. And Aholiab is in engraving, but also in cloth, in the weaving of cloth. And that would include the embroidery that was to be there. And that doesn't mean they're the only two who did anything, because the text says that there were those who had the skills, and these had to be the best of Israel. And I would also say that they would be world class. Because where have they come from? How did they learn these skills? Where were they using these skills? Where had they been doing this? They had been doing this among the Egyptians. And this is where some of the items that the Egyptians had, these beautiful items, would have come from, these two men, among others, obviously, and those before them, those after them. But these two men, and God sets them by name of these are the ones, and He has given them the wisdom to do this sort of thing, the abilities to see creatively and then make these things, and make these things in a beautiful sort of way. These would not have been rudimentary things. These would not have been something that anyone could have done, because not anyone could do it. And do you see a man, this is the best of talent. Do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. Okay, the sloth never gets here. The sluggard never gets here. He will not stand before unknown men. There is a particular city. It's an old historic city. And going back, I guess well over 100 years, There's what is known as, there's the center of the city. And this town, this city, was the center of an empire. And there was an area of that city of where no one was allowed to do anything, whether it was painting or whether it was architecture, whatever it was. No one was allowed to do anything inside that circle of the town, unless they had an extraordinary talent and they were accepted. And yeah, they had extraordinary talent. And you didn't have to necessarily be a citizen of that country at all. If you had the gift, they'd use you. Yeah, if you had that level of talent, they would definitely use you. Now go outside of that area of the city, then anybody else can, whoever hired you, that's okay. But in the most, we will say, the most ornate part of the city, where the emperor would reside, that was left to only those who excelled in their work. And that was it. So we come to chapter 23 and verse 1. And this is going to be in 3 verses. And this concerns the hospitality of a ruler. When you sit down to eat with a ruler, consider carefully what is before you. Now it doesn't matter if you happen to be a prince, which Solomon is writing to a prince, or whether he is a king, because eventually his son may very well become a king. Or it's coming to us, we're neither princes nor kings, nor will we ever be on this earth. But when you sit down to eat with the ruler, consider carefully what is before you. Okay, now there's a very similar thing coming down in chapter 6. That's the miser's hospitality, but this is the ruler's hospitality. Consider what is before you. All right? And put a knife, verse 2, and put a knife to your throat if you are a man given to appetites. So show restraint, show discipline, and this is given for a reason. Verse 3, do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. What appears to be friendship may be manipulation and undue influence. It may be to try to wine and dine, as we say, in trying to make some kind of alliance or some kind of agreement or something. Try to do something that you need to have a discipline in order to deal with this. And so sitting down to eat with a ruler, there's nothing wrong with that, but show restraint. And this comes with expectations, or could very well come with expectations, this hospitality, with an unknown purpose, or even with false pretenses, which is what we're going to get to when we get to the miser, because with the miser, there's nothing but false pretenses there. With the hospitality of a miser, yeah, Uncle Scrooge, or he doesn't invite you for nothing. Okay, he expects something out of you. Now, verse 4, do not overwork to be rich, because of your own understanding, cease. So, all right, here we've already had Proverbs concerning being a sluggard. You can't be a sluggard. Do not be a sluggard. But here is the opposite extreme of that in someone who is overworking to be rich. That is someone that has plenty already to sustain themselves, to do what they need, and perhaps even more so, but now overworking for the sake of just piling up more and more wealth. All right, now he says, because of your own understanding, cease. All right, you've got to work. You have to work for a living. You've got to, but do not work with wealth as being the goal. Wealth as in you have to be richer and richer and richer and richer and richer and richer and whatever it takes to get there. However much you have to work to get more, that is what you do. And he says that from your own understanding cease. That common understanding should tell you that I can stop now. All right, I can stop. You still have to work, but don't overwork for the sake of gaining greater riches, because you do have other responsibilities. That gaining riches are not your sole responsibility. There's more than that. That you have family who needs you. You have those obligations, and those obligations are more than just supplying vast amounts of riches with days and days away or years away. You have these responsibilities and needs. Your family needs your time and your attention. They need that. They want that. And I'll just tell you now, it's when my children were young, and I hadn't seen them for much of anything in the day, but I was there at night to put them to bed. If I hadn't seen them much or at all during the day, they were not happy they weren't ready to go to bed because they wanted time with me. They were not ready to go to bed. But it was time for that. And what I'm getting at is that, yeah, your family needs your time, and once again, and attention. They need that. Now we come to verse 5, which continues in this. Will you set your eyes on what is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings; they fly away like an eagle toward heaven. All right, you're after something that will evaporate. You're after something that the value of that can change in a moment. And it's very much like Christ stated in Matthew chapter 6, beginning in verse 19 and going to 20, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. It's subject to any sort of destruction or devaluation. It's anything can affect something that is material wealth. Don't base your life on that. And your personal value is not on how much you own or how much wealth you have, because if that's what your own personal value is, you're cheap. It's that simple. You're cheap. Set your eyes on something that actually exists. And of course, Christ continues on in saying, of course, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. But we're also to seek the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. God's going to take care of you. Now, we come to verse 6, and this is 6, 7, and 8. This is the hospitality of the miser. And the miser is going to be different than the ruler. But there's a thing of taking care. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. Do not eat the bread of a miser, verse 6, nor desire his delicacies. All right. Nabal, if you remember Nabal in 1 Samuel, Nabal will never do anything that's hospitable without some kind of string attached. There would be. He does not do anything out of goodness, out of generosity, out of friendship. He doesn't. He's not going to do that. Nabal is not going to give up a grain of wheat. He's not going to give up a grape. He's not going to give up anything without there being something attached to it. He doesn't really have an idea of hospitality whatsoever. All is done with the miser, all is done by calculation and strategy for favors, for returning something. You're going to do something, or I just bought you. You are a guest, but yes, you're also the prey. And he will get anything that he's going to want something from you. Verse 7, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he says, but his heart is not with you. So this is all disingenuous. Eat and drink, he doesn't really mean it. He wants something. His motive is yet to be discovered. It's unknown. And there's no sincerity in any of this. There's no true hospitality in this. Eat and drink, he says, his heart's not with you. The morsel you have eaten, you will vomit up and waste your pleasant words. You will wish you never went to the miser's house at all. It won't go well. The outcome will reveal his purpose. And you will waste your pleasant words. You have the pleasantries, the words of friendship, gratitude, praise, all those things. You will wish you just wasted all of that. And everything the miser does is in fact for his profit. Everything he does. And his heart is never with you. I've only known one person in my life that I could actually say that man was a miser. I may be wrong about that. There may be some others but I had an uncle. And if you met him, you would think he was the poorest man in the county. He is wearing rags. He drove up in a beat-up truck, old beat-up truck. But he was, in fact, probably the wealthiest in the county. And he never showed any kind of hospitality unless he was going to get something from you. All right. And quite often, because you're family, he's going to get it from you and offer you nothing. There won't be hospitality on top of that. There won't be. And I remember my brother complaining about it, then I discovered it as well. If he ever asked you, come go with me, let's do a couple of things. You're going to be gone. You will come back well after dark. Okay. You'll come back well after dark. You did more than a couple of things. And you think, oh yeah, we're gonna be gone for a little bit. We'll be back before lunch. No, you're not. You're not gonna be home for supper. And but here he is this someone like a Nabal, someone who is a miser, and suddenly they have a generous heart. You may want to look at that. You may want to look at it. I can't say that someone can't change. But someone who hasn't changed, you're going to have a problem, and you're going to wish you never went to his house. All right, verse 9. Do not speak in the hearing of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of your words. And your words are wasted like what we just saw in verse 28. They are wasted. And we know from chapter 1, verse 22, fools hate knowledge. So if they're hearing it out of you, they're going to hate what you just said. And we also find from 29, is Proverbs 29, verse 9, the fool will rage or the fool will laugh. Either way, you've got a fool that takes what you said as being nonsense, as being something they despise. And in chapter 24, beginning in verse 4, do not answer a fool according to his folly. And of course, you also have answer a fool according to his folly. And it's going to be a judgment call on that one. A judgment call. He's going to despise the wisdom of your words. And there's some people, let's just face it. While you may have the answer to something, sometimes it's wise not to speak it in their presence. It's not being a matter of cowardice. It's just that they are going, they're going to reject it. They're going to reject it, and they're going to make fun of it. They're going to see it as being they're going to see it as being foolish while they are being foolish. And of course, you have those who are more violent than that, of where God says, do not give what is holy to the dogs. Don't give what is holy to the dogs. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't do any of that, lest they turn and rend you. They come back and they're tearing you to pieces. There's some folks, and it's going to be a judgment call. There's some folks where it's best just he was foolish, let him be foolish still. He was ignorant, let him be ignorant still. That's what they want, and that's what they're absolutely their ground, and they're holding to that ground. And there is a message that the fool may need, but he's going to despise those words. And unless you're ready for that, it may be best to not say anything to the fool. And you've probably met them, of where they take something that is in fact scriptural and they make very light of it, or it's something that you know better and they make very light of it, as though, that's a most absurd kind of thought. And you wish there's nothing you can do. Just you're arguing with a fool, and sometimes it's best not to do that. Now we come to verse 10, which we've already read, but we want to bring it out again. Do not remove the ancient landmark, nor enter the field of the fatherless. This goes back to places like Deuteronomy 19:14 and 27:17. Cursed is the one who moves his neighbor's landmark. Then we come to verse 11. For their Redeemer is mighty. He will plead their cause against you. It may seem like it's harmless, but it's not harmless. It may seem like you can justify it, but not before God you can't. You can't justify it. And He will plead their cause against you. That's their Redeemer doing that, who is mighty. And God will see to justice against anyone who does this, moving those landmarks. Now, we come to verse 12. And this really goes back up to where we were at the in chapter 22, beginning in verse 17, of where the Father has gone back into this discourse. And we see here more encouragement going back up to verse 22 and verse 17. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. 22 and verse 17. Here, 23:12, apply your heart to instruction and your ears to words of knowledge. Now, this too is just a direct statement. All right? Now, it is in a couplet. Apply your heart to instruction and your ears to words of knowledge. This can't be overstated, and it is a must. He repeats these things because any one of us can learn everything we need to know and learn it from God and then drift away from it. Or having been presented to us that it has no bearing for us, we don't want it, has no value for us, and so we just toss it aside. But as we have already seen, anyone can drift away from the words of God. May have been solid and sound and good 10 years ago, and now not so much. And just slowly withering and backsliding. In Proverbs 2:2, so that you incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Very similar to this particular proverb. And we also see where this is connected to verse 15 and 16. My son, if your heart is wise, my heart will rejoice. Indeed, I myself, yes, my inmost being will rejoice when your lips speak right things. And we come to verse 19. Hear, my son, and be wise, and guide your heart in the way. These all really go together. But let's go now to verse 13. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. This is a direct command from God that children must be disciplined. They must be. And of course, it's got to be proportional to the child, such as the age of the child. A child that, a 1-year-old has to learn discipline. Actually, a 6-month-old has got to learn some discipline. They have to, it's going to be early. That doesn't mean that you take a rod to a 1-year-old or a 6-month-old. It doesn't mean that at all. This is all a principle, and that there must be discipline. If your child has no discipline, there will be a problem, and it could very well last their lifetime. They won't understand it. And I just saw here recently of teachers who are quitting for this very reason, because things are getting worse and worse in the classroom with children who don't even comprehend discipline. They don't comprehend the fact that they can't get their way every second of the day. They cannot comprehend that just because I hurt someone, I get disciplined because of this. They can't. They are basically without a thought of such things, and that there has to be discipline in the home. There has to be a child must be disciplined, and Proverbs 13:24, he who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. And now let's just look at a few things concerning this. If you have a child who wants to play with, let's just say, a bandsaw, or wants to play around with a table saw, would the parent, if they need to, put some pressure on that child one way or another of, no, you're not going to do that, because you are seriously going to get hurt, or you may get killed? Well, I think most would. Now, someone who wouldn't do that, let's just face it, that Proverbs is absolutely correct in this, that he who spares the rod hates his son. His son going into something that's going to get him in trouble, serious trouble. You won't restrain him. Let's just face it, you hate your son. Meaning what? You don't care what happens to him. You don't care. Just let him go do what he's going to do. And that's showing no amount of love for him whatsoever. But someone who loves him is going to discipline him promptly and proportionately. That if it's something that's an older child who's done something very bad, there needs to be the proper response, and it must be, the law has to have some teeth. Got to have some teeth. Otherwise, you just have a child that's going to play the system, game the system. They figure they can get away with anything because they always have. And now we want to look at verse 14 and put that into perspective. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. Now there's no guarantee that's going to happen. All right, but it's going to help, because you're going to have an adult that's going to grow up that does understand consequences. A child that doesn't understand consequences, doesn't understand any kind of punishment, is not going to understand hell at all. They'll just do what they've always done. And that hell is going to be an extremely foreign concept to them. One is to teach their children, to discipline their children, but that child always will have a free will to do what they want to do. God will never take their free will away. They always can choose right and wrong any day of their life, regardless of any discipline, regardless of any teaching. They still have that will. But one who is taught and one who is properly disciplined is one more likely to do precisely what they've been taught to do. More likely to. All right, we have come to the end of our time. I want to thank everybody for being with us, and hopefully next week we can continue.